Hi, I'm Mark Taylor from Christian Standard Magazine. We're here at the North American Christian Convention on the floor of the convention, talking with Aaron Brockett, who preached a great sermon at the main session this morning. Aaron, thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Aaron preaches at Traders Point Christian Church on the north side of Indianapolis. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there. How long have you been there, Aaron?
I've been at Traders Point. It'll be 6 years in November.
Okay, and things are a little different now than they were when you got there?
Yeah, the scale is a little bigger, but it's essentially the same church. It's healthy, same eldership,
Oh, that's cool.
Same DNA. It's an old church. It was started in 1834, and its life cycles started over several times, obviously, in that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But really healthy place to be and to do ministry, and I'm having the time of my life.
And what are you running? How many worship there on the weekends?
Somewhere around 4,500 to 5,000 or so.
And when I was there earlier this year, you were working on a children's wing. You still working on that?
Yeah, it's almost finished.
Almost
It
finished?
should be completely finished this fall. Yeah.
Okay, so listen, America wants to know, because of a great opportunity that you had on Father's Day Sunday a few weeks ago, America wants to know, what is Willie Robertson really like?
Oh, he's a great guy. He's legitimately the same guy off camera as what you see on TV, and I enjoyed it.
How did you pull that off?
I had kind of the idea last Thanksgiving. I was at my in-laws' house watching Duck Dynasty, and I always like to do something a little different on Father's Day because that has a tendency to be lower attended than Mother's Day. And I like to bring somebody in that guys can relate to, and I just thought, man, that's a guy's kind of a guy. I knew they had a legitimate faith in God, and so came back, asked my team what they thought. They thought I was nuts, which they're really right. And then we didn't know exactly how to get him, so I tweeted him. I don't know if he read it or not. Didn't really get a response, but tweeted him to kind of prime the pump. One of our people on staff contacted his agent and said, "This is what we're trying to do." And he said, "We'll put it in front of Willie and get back to you." We didn't know when, but in the meantime, I guess by God's divine sovereignty, that's what I'd like to think. There's a lady in our church that had Willie in for a conference she was doing. And so she spent all day with him, and she knew that we had sent in an offer to him, so she started talking our church up to him all day long, and he was interested, asked questions about our church, what we were trying to do, and 2 weeks later he said yes. So we were kind of stunned by it. I thought maybe 10% chance we'd get him, and we got him, and he was great to work with, great to do. I did a Q&A with him, and basically teed it up and said, we had a lot of unchurched people show up that day.
Sure.
So it was really cool. And I said, what would you say to the skeptical person who's a big fan of your show but not a big fan of God? And he just answered the question beautifully, really turned him to Jesus, and lots of cool stories after that. People that are now, a lot of people stay away from church just because they've never been or haven't been in a long time. So if they can have one positive experience, that's 50% of the battle to get them to come back. So a lot of cool stories from it. He was very cool, gave me his cell phone number. He's texted me a couple times since he's been there. Just a regular guy, and I enjoyed meeting him.
Well, congratulations. I think that's terrific. A lot of people were envying your coup, I think.
Yeah.
So today you preached a powerful sermon about the church. Your text was those 7 churches in Revelation. You were preaching about the church. And there was a lot of passion on behalf of the church in your sermon. And I'm wondering where that comes from. Did it come from your study of the text? Did it come from bad experiences that have turned into a positive point of view later in your ministry? Or where do you feel like that came from?
Well, obviously, I'd like to say that some of that passion comes out of the text, what I see there. I think more than that, I mean, I grew up in the church, and I wouldn't necessarily say that my early years in the church they weren't bad, but I don't know that I'd necessarily say they were real inspiring either. And I don't know what it was. I think that maybe for the last 15 years or so, I've always just understanding the church isn't perfect, but yet also still having a high respect for her. In the sense that it's pretty clear Jesus cares about her. It's his idea, Matthew 16. And I've always just thought, Jesus He's the one that wakes up every day and looks at his bride without her makeup on for the last 2,000 years, and he still loves her. So, why can't we? And honestly, I'm a product of what happened in the church. I mean, godly men and women really poured into me, and it was through that setting of the local church. So it's not going to be perfect, but God, I think that's the beauty of it, is that Jesus basically says, here is the church. I want you guys to go out and trust the gospel message to you, knowing you're going to make a mess of things. It blows my mind that all 12 disciples forsook Jesus after he was arrested, and yet right after his resurrection, he said, bye. I would have hung around for a little while and said, okay, guys, we need to go through some more training.
Let's do some practice.
Yeah, let's do some practice, and you guys just failed utterly. But yet he trusts us. He believes in us before we believed in him. And so I just think that a lot of supernatural power comes through the church, the local church. It's the only thing that'll last into eternity. And while I think that we should speak into it honestly and admonish the church where it needs to be admonished, we don't need to give up on it either.
It's hard to be in church though sometimes for those of us who've been in the church a long time.
Yeah.
And you talked about messy lives, and the church is supposed to be messy. Why don't you, for people who didn't hear the sermon, just expound on that a little bit?
Well, I think that every church should really be on that front lines of culture and in the lives of people. And we're not just trying to keep the sheep in the fold. Obviously, that's a part of it. I mean, discipleship and edification. But we're trying to reach people that have a lot of mess in their lives and a lot of brokenness, which means, I can't feed my 17-month-old daughter without getting a little messy. And I think that the church has got to embrace that, understand it, that whenever you try to reach messy people, they're going to bring that mess in with them to the church. And so, the church is never going to be perfect. And Jesus never promised us it would. He said, one day it'll be perfected. And
that was one of several quotable lines out of your sermon. It's not perfect, it's going to be perfected.
Yeah.
You said that the picture of the 7 churches in Revelation is of a church that's both seduced and persecuted. And do you feel like both descriptions apply to the church in America today? Seduced and persecuted, or which more? Or
absolutely.
Whatever. How do you think we're being seduced?
Well, I think obviously whenever you're trying to minister within any sort of culture, just that fine line of knowing how to relate to the culture and communicate to the culture without succumbing to it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that if you decide to dress down or dress up or certain styles of music or whatever. I just think that has a lot to do with your philosophy of life and your approach to ministry and your doctrine and some of those sorts of things. I think more than anything too, it's like one of the things I said in the message too is that we should never be offensive in the way we communicate the gospel, but we shouldn't be afraid to let the gospel be offensive.
Yes.
And I think that when we are when we're trying to take all offense out of the gospel, that's essentially us being seduced by the culture.
Okay.
And then the other way around, when you stand up, are clear about the gospel. The church is described as a lampstand, which means that it is a fragile light. A lampstand's not necessarily a great picture of stability. It can easily be toppled. And yet the darkness will either submit to who the light is revealing, or it'll try to extinguish it. So I honestly feel that it's not necessarily a good month in our church unless I have stories of both happening. I want to know that there are people in darkness who have submitted to Jesus Christ. And then I also want to know if there's anybody anybody upset? Anybody trying to extinguish the light, upset about what we said, upset about what we taught. And I think that's where there's Holy Spirit power in that. And I think a lot of churches are afraid of both, kind of live somewhere in the middle. Satan leaves you alone.
Yeah. And so we're not doing our job unless things are stirred up a little bit.
Yeah, things need to be stirred up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, I know some church leaders that relish that. They relish conflict, and I don't think we shouldn't be looking for it.
Yeah. Stirred up isn't always conflict.
Mm-hmm. Right. Just an unsettling. just sort of an unsettling conviction that lies with people.
And a sense that something's happening.
Uh-huh.
And the world's noticing. Sometimes the world's attracted by that, and sometimes the world's offended by it.
Yeah.
The fact that something's happening.
I mean, it's, I preached a sermon 2 weeks ago on the 10 Commandments, and said some tough things, and it was amazing the different responses. I had some guys really upset with me, and some guys really broken.
Mm.
Same message, same hour, just the different responses and how it hits people. And I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I looked out at the congregation, and there were some looks on people's faces. They looked really annoyed, and there were some that looked really broken. And I thought, that's a good message.
Well, I think there were probably people broken by your message today. I don't know if you had a chance just in these few hours to hear reactions to your sermon.
Not so much, a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Still talking to some people.
Yeah. Well, it's a great sermon. Thanks for taking time to talk to us about it this afternoon.
I appreciate that. Always good to talk to you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yep.